Hi everyone, Darian the Eclectic. I am back again. I am still in my PJs and it is still early in the morning. If you saw my last book review on Where He Can't Find You by Darcy Coates, I am actually doing both of these book reviews at the same time. So if you haven't seen that one, I'll link the video below. Make sure you go back and watch it. It was a great book and I tell you all about it. I include maybe a gray area of spoiler in there for you. But right now, I am ready to cozy up with my cup of tea and talk to you about Gideon the Ninth. So grab your tea of choice, drink of choice, grab your book, and let's get started. Okay, so I devoured Gideon the Ninth, as I did with Where He Can't Find You, and it was so good. But it did take me a second to warm up to it. So let me read the description in the front flap. I actually have this one because there are some things in it that I actually wanted to annotate and take notes on within the book and talk about for my own writing. There's something about this book that is just really outstanding. And the fact that this is a debut novel by Tamsyn Muir, and if I'm mispronouncing that, I am so sorry. The fact that this is a debut novel blew me away because it is so well written, so rich in detail that it really feels like a book by someone who is seasoned at writing. And of course, maybe she has written a lot of books and this is the first published, but it is just fantastic. So let me read the front flap for you. Brought up by unfriendly, ossifying nuns, ancient retainers, and countless skeletons, Gideon is ready to abandon a life of servitude and an afterlife as a reanimated corpse. She packs up her sword, her shoes, and her dirty magazines and prepares to launch her daring escape. But her childhood nemesis won't set her free without a service. Harrowhawk Nonagesimus, Reverend Daughter of the Ninth House and Bone Witch Extraordinaire, has been summoned into action. The Emperor has invited the heirs of each of his loyal houses to a deadly trial of wits and skill. If Harrowhawk succeeds, she will become an immortal, all-powerful servant of the resurrection. But no necromancer can ascend without their cavalier. Without Gideon's sword, Harrow will fail, and the Ninth House will die. Of course, some things are better left dead. Now, to me, that was not the best introduction to the book. It didn't actually grab me. Now that I've read it, it doesn't actually say what I would want it to say for it to grab me. So I actually found another summary and I wanted to read it to you. Gideon the Ninth is a captivating blend of science fiction, fantasy, and mystery set in a decaying universe where necromancers vie for power. The story follows Gideon Nav, a swordswoman bound in servitude to the Ninth House, as she reluctantly allies with her necromancer, Harrowhawk Nonagesimus, to solve a cosmic puzzle. As they venture to the Emperor's crumbling palace, they uncover dark secrets, confront lethal challenges, and face their own demons. Now, to me, that pulls me in a little bit more. The fact that this is both science fiction and fantasy, and I was a little bit skeptical because to me, it's like, there is a line there. There is a definition for both, in my opinion. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. But this really was a beautiful blend of science fiction and fantasy. It's dark fantasy. There's a lot of beautiful dark description that goes throughout. It's so incredibly well done. Now, Gideon Nab's voice throughout this book is really one of the things that pulled me in and would not let me go. She is funny and witty. She's got a dark sense of humor. She's crass, and it is in direct contradiction to her necromancer Harrowhawk, who is very proper, very well educated, and likes things to be done in a very certain way, ritualistic way, because that she is basically the royalty of her house, and this is how she was brought up to be, and this is the proper etiquette and the way to do things. And Gideon just flies in the face of all of that. And so right away, there's this conflict between these two, and they start out as brutal enemies hating each other, and you hate Harrowhawk just as much as Gideon does. However, lots of little mysteries are brought up throughout, and part of my beef with this is that by the end, spoiler alert, not all of the mysteries are tied up. So, and doing a little bit of research on Tamsyn, it looks like there might be a sequel to this, and the way the book ended, it leaves it open for a sequel to this story. So if that's the case, I'm really looking forward to it, because hopefully that answers some of these questions and brings back what we think is lost at the end, which I won't spoil for you. Now, the prose in this book, like I said, are really beautiful. They are deliciously dark and poetic, which again is in contrast to Gideon's voice, which is very crass. There's a lot of dark humor and wit and some dirty jokes that go on. It is really beautiful. But the thing that pulled me the most as I went through was the character arc and the character development between Harrowhawk and Gideon. Now, like I said at the beginning, it took me a little bit to warm up into this book. I was starting to get bored as I started it. However, if you stick through the first couple of chapters and get to where they get into the next world, if we're talking in terms of fiction writing, there's the point where the protagonist has to move into the next world and start the story, right? There's the catalyst, and then the main character may deny that call to action that the catalyst is bringing about, but ultimately the protagonist accepts the call to action and goes forth into the journey, into the call that has been made of her in this case. And so once Harrowhawk and Gideon move into that second world, that second phase, in order to start their journey, it becomes very clear that everything in the first part of the book was necessary, and without it, the climactic moments would not have hit as hard. So if you haven't read this and you are like me and it's kind of hard for you to get into, stick with it for those first few chapters, because once you get to the next world, it is so worth it, and it is perfectly articulated in why that was necessary. Now, as we go through this book, there were some twists and turns and some red herrings and things throughout that did keep me guessing. However, I feel like I knew who the baddie was from very early on when we met. And it's because, if you've read a lot of fiction, it's because there's a trope in place there that made me feel like, okay, you know, this might be the least suspected person, and so it has to be that person. However, I did not know how everything was going to happen until the very end. And the way Tamsyn put all of the pieces in place to make it an inevitable but satisfying outcome in the end was so well done, so beautifully written. Her Easter eggs were put in throughout. The clues were there so that by the time you get to the end, you're like, oh, everything came together. Yes, that makes sense. That's the only way this could have happened. I absolutely love the way she did that. Okay, so I talked about the character development, the character arc between Harrowhawk and Gideon, and these might be a little bit of spoilers as well. So Harrowhawk and Gideon, they start out as enemies, and in the end, their character development as they come together, they're both having to learn to be more vulnerable and communicate with each other by necessity in order for their mission, in order for them to be successful by the end with their mission. So the fact that they are having to basically strip away this armor-plated personality that they both have, that you don't really understand until they start talking about it, and the things that they say, the reasons for those armors being in place makes so much sense. And when they start to be stripped away, you feel so connected, and it resounds so much with you as the reader that you cannot help but love them both and love their relationship at the end. And they come to truly love each other at the end in many different ways, not just the obvious ways, but in many, many different ways. And you really are rooting for them by the end. They have made a complete 180 in terms of how they treat each other and how they look at the world, and it is beautiful. Now, talking about the climax, without giving too much away, the action-packed climactic moments for this book, and it seems like there are several, but Tamsyn just layers them on top of each other, and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger until you can't see where she's going to go next. And then she just goes bigger again. And it's all beautiful and it's all really well done. The action is streamlined. It's not fluffy. It's not onerous. And it again amplifies that character. Like they have to go all in. They have to stretch themselves beyond what they were ever capable of before in order to survive the ending here. And the ultimate way that they do that, again, is just such a perfect chef's kiss in how Tamsyn did this. It was so perfectly put together and so well done. If you have not read this, I highly, highly recommend. Now, I devour most of my books in audiobook version because I'm so busy and I have so many things to do. But this one was so beautifully well done. The audiobook version that I listened to was read by Moira Quirk, and there are lots of different characters set throughout, and she gave them such distinct and beautiful different accents and character and personalities, which of course Tamsyn had layered in intentionally and was so well written. When they came together for this audiobook, it just took it to another level of entertaining, of immersive for me anyway, as I went into it. Now, something I didn't touch on that I should have with Where He Can't Find You by Darcy Coates in the other last book review I did is POV. And similarly to Where He Can't Find You is the POV in Gideon the Ninth is third person. And while the third person in Where He Can't Find You was omniscient and it allowed me to kind of see inside everybody's head, everybody's feelings, and it was really beautifully done. In Gideon the Ninth, this third person is more of a closer set. It's not omniscient. It's a close third person so that we can see mostly Gideon, but there's a little bit of extra from everyone else as well. And the way this was done has me swayed because I am a huge fan of first person. I am writing my work in progress in first person, and I was of the opinion that first person is the best way to write because it's so immersive. It really pulls in readers. You are the protagonist as you go through. However, having read these last two books, which are in third person, my opinion is being really swayed. And it's not just because writing first person is so difficult, and sometimes I really wish I'd written third person. It's because these have been so well written that it has me swayed in that third person can be just as immersive, just as entertaining, just as, all encompassing as first person can be. And it's making me think I'm going to write my next book in third person because of how well this was done. You're able to see more details into the other characters. You're able to feel more about the other characters and feel more of a connection to them. And it's just done so beautifully, so incredibly well. I know I keep saying that, but this book just blew me away. And again, more the fact that it was a debut novel as well is incredibly impressive. So if you're looking for a couple of books to read, again, view my last book review, which I'll put in the comments below for you to go check out. But definitely read Gideon the Ninth. It is, especially if you are an aspiring writer or a writer, an author, this has some incredible lessons in here that are really going to blow you away and really help. And again, I'm going to annotate as I go through and reread this in the physical version and take notes on things because especially that character arc, but from enemies to lovers in there is just so well done. I would really love to be able to capture that level of expertise in my next work in progress. So let me know what you think. Did you read Gideon the Ninth? Did you enjoy it? How do you feel about the beginning pulling you in? How do you feel about it lending to the elements for the rest of the book? And I will be reviewing Masters of Death next by Olivia Blake, I believe. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for that coming up very soon. All right, until the next video, bye.